Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. It's been a bit of a blur this week for Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder news. Obviously people were expecting their rematch in this top-ranked deal with Tyson Fury and Queensberry, that's Frank Warren, kind of throwing things into a little bit of doubt. Who knows what will really happen now? A lot of things being said by both sides. Deontay Wilder's come out, said a number of things. Tyson Fury, Bob Arum, Tyson Fury's new co-promoter. So what I'm going to do is just whip through 5 different stories that have come out, different statements from various players in the saga, including the WBC, which says that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder owe the fans this rematch. So let's crack into it. Buckle in. Let's go. So first off, we'll start with Bob Arum saying that they're sending out a tremendous offer to Deontay Wilder. So Arum, he had come out a couple of days ago when this all happened with Tyson Fury signing on the dotted line, reportedly for a deal of £80 million, although Arum has said publicly it's not necessarily £80 million, but if Fury has all the fights, does all the things in the contract, he could earn well over $100 million. But talking to ESPN SportsCenter, Arum said, Deontay Wilder himself has said that as far as networks are concerned, he's a free agent. Today we are sending out an offer to Deontay Wilder, which will also go to his manager Shelley Finkel and his advisor Al Heyman, making this offer, which is a tremendous one, to do the fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. I guess the question to ask there is there a caveat with that deal? Because Arum has clearly stated to the LA Times earlier this week, he wants Fury and Wilder to be in September and for both to have a fight in between, an interim fight before they rematch. He says they need to get in front of ESPN, Tyson Fury needs to warm up to the viewers, all that sort of stuff, and if they can build his profile, they can get potentially 1 to 2 million pay-per-view buys for the rematch on ESPN later in the year. But he would be very reluctant, from what he's saying, to throw Tyson Fury right into the mix there with Deontay Wilder. And I guess when you consider that it's a multi-year deal with a lot of money there for Tyson Fury, it's an investment in him, you can kind of see from the business perspective, he makes a lot of sense with what he's thinking. It doesn't necessarily translate into what we would like to see as fans, because obviously December 1st, 2018, a bit of a bad taste in the mouth in regards to the result for some. They want to see this thing run back and get a definitive result, and we may have to wait several months for that. So on to the next one. So Arum, he has also said he wants Tyson Fury to be his gypsy George Foreman. We're delighted to have him, Arum told Boxing Scene. We think that he's a very charismatic guy, and we think that we can make a lot of noise with him because he's so charismatic. We can't wait to get started. He's fun. He's like my gypsy George Foreman. Interesting indeed. He also said, we think that he can be a real major player in boxing because of his personality, and we're delighted that he signed with us because we think we can do some very, very interesting things with him. And exactly what that is, it's hard to say, but he also, Arum told the Boxing Voice that the personality was a big part of getting this deal done. So they obviously believe that Tyson Fury, and I guess if they can corral his personality to an extent and make sure that he doesn't say too many controversial things, that the way that he is sort of playing with the public and the media right now, he's a hot commodity, and they want to take advantage of that, and they want to capitalize on that, and that means monetizing Tyson Fury, making the most from this deal. So in that regard, because of what he's saying, it does lend itself to, this is completely about money, using Tyson Fury to make the most benefit for everyone involved in this deal. And that doesn't necessarily translate into rematch next. I mean, that's just my thoughts. That the more I've been thinking about this, the more I think actually it does seem like it could become a more remote possibility. Even though Deontay Wilder has said that a rematch, there shouldn't be any barriers to that, it's just really hard to sort of see it coming off. One, because Tyson Fury's promoter, Bob Arum, is saying he doesn't want it next, but also with the whole Deontay Wilder side of the coin. He's been on Showtime predominantly for the most recent part of his career. There's a relationship there. He's signed with PBC, boxing power broker Al Heyman. they're not necessarily going to want to see it, Deontay Wilder just walking over voluntarily to ESPN. So the more that I've been thinking about it, even though some of the statements, from everyone involved seems to be, we can get this done, I'm just not so quite sure about it. But also when you consider that if it doesn't happen next, will it ever happen? And I'm going to be discussing some of my thoughts on the heavyweight division and these sort of power bases that are building up on my Patreon, because this is really something that we're starting to see more of an emergence of, these silos. And if you look at the situation, sort of it had been a two-horse race, one base for heavyweights in the UK, one base in America, but now we're getting a third leg here, and Top Rank and ESPN could become a major player here. But his gypsy George Foreman, it's quite the statement. Anthony Joshua, the unified heavyweight champion, he's weighed in on this situation. He had been hoping to face either Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury, but it wasn't to be. He's now facing Jarrell Miller because it looked like Fury and Wilder were going to fight each other and the fight wasn't available. So he has said of this deal, I think there will be a way that they can get it together. But it's interesting. Maybe it could have been a situation where he could have fought, and in bracket here for Top Rank and ESPN, after. He could have signed the deal after fighting Wilder again, but it's very interesting. I don't know why he would have done that deal if it would have jeopardized the fight. And that's a very good point that many have been pointing to. You could still go and do your deal with Top Rank, but after a rematch. But Frank Warren has sort of said specifically regarding this deal that part of it getting on board now is they won't be dictated to by Showtime and the others involved who were involved in that first fight, that they wanted to have more parity here, and being with Top Rank and ESPN in particular gave them that. So, you can kind of argue the toss on that, because I'm sure Frank Warren will say one thing publicly and there's really probably about 4 different meanings to the actual what's happened and why. So Joshua continues, but at the same time, I feel like he'd done the deal hoping it wouldn't jeopardize the fight because they're keen on getting that rematch. That's what jeopardized April the 13th date, is that Tyson Fury and Wilder rematch. So it'd be interesting to wonder why he would sign a deal after that woha and to jeopardize the fight once more. Do you know what I mean? That's interesting. And elsewhere he said, it's interesting because if it was me, it'd be, he doesn't want the fight. He's going to a different network. And he said, but it's good for him if he's happy. And if he doesn't fight me, he doesn't mind sitting back in his rocking chair and kind of enjoying his multi-million-pound tour. So he's made the decision based on what's right for him, I felt. And I guess that's sort of alluding to the fact that, Tyson Fury's done this, but what does that mean for facing Anthony Joshua? That's a big question. Some have been arguing that it makes it easier and harder, and I'm kind of more of the view that it's in the harder sort of end of the basket, because while you've got Tyson Fury, the USA side with ESPN, it may not potentially be as much of an issue, but it could still be an issue because Joshua is on a fight-by-fight deal with DAZN. DAZN want to lock him up. I heard an interview this week with one of the guys from DAZN saying, look, we want to have Joshua on a deal similar to the one that he has with Sky, the long-term, showing of his fights, yada, 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 all that sort of stuff. But in the UK, Sky and BT, they're never going to work together, and I still think that is a huge barrier. But then you throw up another potential hurdle with ESPN coming into it on Tyson Fury's camp too, and that could muddy the waters on the American side potentially. I just don't know, with all these extra layers coming in here, if he could ever fight Joshua, at least in this period that he's under in this deal. But who knows, maybe the deal won't be for as long as we all think, because even though it's a multi-year deal with a certain amount of money, apparently, financial milestones or whatever it is the case, the contract is probably structured in such a way that if he got sparked out in the first fight, that, it effectively all goes away. So who's to say how long this thing could really be for? We have to consider that. And if we stick with Anthony Joshua's camp, we've got Eddie Hearn, who thinks that now that the deal is in place for Fury, that Wilder should actually shift his focus to Anthony Joshua. So he told Sky Sports, I think it's good news for us, and this is of Fury signing the deal, probably in that I think Deontay Wilder should be looking at it and say, my fight with Fury is unlikely now, so let's get the AJ fight done. I'd like to see Wilder have a fight and then fight the undisputed fight if Joshua can beat Miller. That's what we want. I don't know what's going to happen with ESPN and Fury. He's obviously done a deal that he felt benefited him financially. We've got our own business to focus on, and that's what we've always tried to do. We hope that we go Jarrell Miller, Deontay Wilder for the belt, and if it's not Wilder or Fury, it's just about that final belt. He stands one belt away from going down in history as an undisputed heavyweight world champion. That's what he has to achieve. I'm hoping now that Wilder looks at it and says, well, okay, maybe I should get on and make the Joshua fight. So very, very interesting, and quite possibly anything can happen. And maybe the signing of Tyson Fury to his new deal could push Deontay Wilder back towards Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn. But I still think for Deontay Wilder, it's going to come down to the split. He's effectively said 50-50 or nothing. And given everything that's happened, all the water that's gone under the bridge, while this might give Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua a bit more of maybe some perceived leverage in that situation, I think it's still going to come down to the money. And everyone can debate about what's fair and, what Deontay Wilder may deserve against Anthony Joshua, the cash cow of the division. But if Wilder doesn't think it's enough, he's not going to accept the fight. So please, no comments trying to, debate with me saying, it's fair for him to get 30 or 40%, because ultimately it's not about what you and I think about the splits are. It's about what it takes to get the fight done. And if Deontay Wilder doesn't like the deal, he won't take the fight. And that's what we've seen so far. Okay, on to the next one, and this is the final one. So the WBC obviously has got a bit invested in this rematch. They ordered a direct rematch, thinking it was going to be quite easy to make. Then we had a purse bid delayed. That was February the 5th, given an extra week. Didn't happen. Mauricio Suleiman, WBC president, came out and sort of said, I'm monitoring the situation very carefully. And I did watch an interview with him. I think it was a Seconds Out interview, or maybe it was it was an interview where it was by phone on Seconds Out. And they were saying to them, look, what's the crack here? What is going to happen? And effectively, he sort of said he didn't want to tie himself to anything. He said he was going to talk to the respective parties, but he made it clear that it was up to the promoters to work this out, because this fight has been ordered, and he wants to go back to the Board of Governors with a positive update to tell them what's happening. And when he was pushed on what if it falls through, what happens then? He wouldn't really go into any specifics or detail, obviously not wanting to be held to anything. But if it did fall over after all the effort that the WBC has gone to try push this fight through, even creating a resolution where the rematch was good, and they ordered Dominic Breazeale to fight Dillian Whyte in lieu of Dominic Breazeale being the mandatory to Wilder, they've got a lot of skin in the game here. So they'll be wanting to see it come off. But if it is a situation where there is an interim fight between the rematch, maybe they can live with that. But that could have some ramifications for other dominoes within the WBC, Dominic Breazeale specifically, and Dillian Whyte, because maybe Deontay Wilder will end up fighting his mandatory Dominic Breazeale. Or maybe they'll let that interim fight ride, and potentially the winner of that fight faces the winner of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder if they ever do fight. I mean, there's so many variables here. But Suleiman has also told the Press Association they owe it to the fans to make it happen. I will speak with them. Last week I was communicating with both parties, and they both said that they were very close to making a deal for the fight to happen without the need for purse bids. So that's how we left it on Friday. Then on Monday we had the news regarding Fury's ESPN deal. So I'm communicating with both to see where they stand regarding negotiations. We will take every single step, hoping to make the fight a reality. I'm hopeful. I'll assess their positions, understand the situation, and from there we'll determine the steps to take. A purse bid's possible. It's their willingness to participate in the bout that's important. Then we'll make a ruling. They might ask for additional time. So yeah, Suleiman sort of saying, the fans deserve this, but then basically leaving every loophole that he can for himself as an out, because they could have some egg on their face, any which way this sort of plays out. They've got a lot invested in this, but I do agree with him. The fans, because of what's gone on with the first fight, the controversy, and it was a very intriguing and good fight, drama, action-packed, but then we've expected this rematch is coming, given everyone said the rematch was coming, including the fighters themselves, and now it's looking a little less clear, and the WBC is probably wondering what is going on here. Suleiman wasn't privy to the Tyson Fury stuff before it broke, and obviously they'll want to know what's happening, because the division is a little bit on hold now. Have you noticed that? We were looking with potentially for a whole bunch of fights coming up, and now it's just not clear what is going to happen. And all we've got on the horizon at the moment in terms of big fights is Joshua Miller, and that's months away. There's a number of guys who've got a couple of fights coming up, but some of them would be regarded as lower level fights or stay busies, but there is nothing concrete at the moment. So hopefully we do get some clarity on what's happening soon. So then at least we can know when the fights are coming and who the opponents are, because we don't know, that with any certainty for a lot of the top guys right now, even though they're seemingly booked up, but just not quite yet. Anyway, drop a comment. Loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.